You know, the original Portal from 2007 is a great puzzle game, but I have one big problem with it. It's just way too short. I mean, you can honestly beat it in just over an hour, but it's still a great game and one of my favorite games from 2007. Hey, it's Ethan, and in this episode, we'll be discussing the 2011 sequel to Portal from 2007 called Portal 2. It's honestly one of my favorite co-op games and one of my favorite puzzle games ever made, but I feel that I should explain first on how this masterpiece came about.
It's late 2007, and the developer Valve, known for creating the Half-Life series and also the people who operate the PC digital storefront known as Steam, released a small game by the name of Portal, which was created by a small team of about 7 or 8 people, and it ended up being a massive success for Valve, and by January of 2008, there were rumors that a sequel to Portal was in development. Valve had their developers split up into groups, with some of them working on Portal 2 and others working on the now beloved Left 4 Dead. However, for the first 5 months of development, Valve decided to not have Portal 2 use any portals at all and instead use the f-stop system. They never disclosed any specifics on what that system was like, but in 2020, the developer Lunchhouse Software revealed that they were using Valve's f-stop code in their upcoming game, The Exposure, which ended up being cancelled. The mechanic was based on an aperture camera, which would allow players to take photos of objects and store the object inside of the camera and then replace it while also having the ability to rotate or scale the object. However, Valve's f-stop game was set in the 1980s and would not have featured Shell or GLaDOS. Instead, it would have followed a new test subject that was also involved in a conflict within the Aperture Science laboratories. Playtesters of the game did enjoy what they played of f-stop, but it never saw a final release, so by October 2008, it was scrapped entirely. In March of 2010, the former gaming news website and magazine, known as Game Informer, revealed the official announcement of Portal 2 on the cover of the April 2010 issue, with a release date of late 2010. Also around that time, Valve updated Portal 1 a few times to give a small tease to the announcement of Portal 2, and CEO and founder of Valve, Gabe Newell, had the screen behind him look like a blue screen of death to signal the return of GLaDOS and more info on Portal 2 when he was giving his speech on accepting the Pioneer Award at the Game Developers Conference, or GDC, in 2010. During Sony's E3 2010 press conference, Gabe Newell went up on stage and apologized for all of the comments he made a few years ago on developing the Orange Box and how hard it was to develop for the PS3 in comparison to the Xbox 360. He did announce that the PlayStation 3 version of Portal 2 would be the best console version of the game and that it would have support for Steam achievements for linking your Steam account to the PS3 version of the game, and that it would also have PlayStation Move support. In August of 2010, it was announced that Portal 2 would be delayed to February of 2011 because it would allow Valve to complete changes to the game's dialogue, connect the about 60 chest chambers, and to finish refinements to the gel gameplay mechanic, which I'll talk about later. But that didn't last long, because in November of 2010, it was announced that Portal 2 would be released in April of 2011 instead. They did this because they wanted to expand on the game's content before reaching an internal milestone called a content lock, which after no further content could be added. On April 1st, 2011, Valve released an alternative reality game called Potato Sack, where players tried to solve a multi-tiered puzzle, coordinating efforts through websites and chat rooms. Some game journalists believe the game denoted the release of Portal 2 on April 15th, 2011, instead of the target release date of April 19th, 2011. On April 15th, players discovered GLaDOS at Home, which encouraged participants to play games to unlock Portal 2 early, and ended up being unlocked on April 18th around 9:30 p.m. Pacific time, which was roughly 10 hours before its planned release on the next day. Portal 2 ended up being first released for Windows and Mac OS X on April 18, 2011, as the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 versions were released 2 days later on April 20, 2011, and that's a very nice release date, if you know what I mean. And it was later ported to the Nintendo Switch as part of the Portal Companion Collection released in 2022, which that will be the version I'll be playing and basing most of my opinions off of, since last year when I talked about Portal 1, I played the Switch port as well, and it also allows me to play the game at a solid 60 FPS. Now my history with Portal 2 is a bit complicated. I originally bought it in 2014 because a close friend of mine got an Xbox 360 for his birthday and one of the games he got was Portal 2, and I didn't own it at the time, but some of my friends did, and it looked fun, so I bought it and me and my friends used to play a lot of the co-op missions together, but for some reason my 9-year-old mind couldn't comprehend some of the puzzles of the story mode, so it took me until January of 2025 at 19 years old to finally complete the game for the first time.
Yeah, Portal 2 is one of those games that doesn't make it exactly obvious on what the solution is to the puzzle, but whenever I see the solution, I always feel like a complete idiot because I know I could have figured it out eventually. But with that out of the way, let's see what Portal 2 is all about.
Okay, so Portal 2 takes place in the same universe as Half-Life and roughly between the events of Portal 1 and Half-Life 2, as we wake up in this hotel-like room where a voice is telling us to look around and stare at art for some reason. I don't know, man, I just think it's a little off-putting, but still interesting nevertheless. Anyway, we go back to sleep and wake up in the same room, but now it looks like it's been turned into a complete dump, and we're introduced to a robot named Wheatley, and he's kind of like our companion and also the comedic relief, because honestly, with a game like this, it can get a bit boring in terms of dialogue.
Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention that Wheatley also has a British accent too.
A voice then tells us to brace for a mandatory evacuation as Wheatley tries to take control of the room and also mentions that we have a mild case of severe brain damage, which is very reassuring as he starts smashing the room into other structures, causing it to fall apart, and for some reason mentions vegetables?
Just gotta get through here. Okay, I just gotta concentrate. And whose fault do you think it's going to be when the management comes down here and finds 10,000 flipping vegetables? Alright, so no, I hear that one. Okay, listen, we should get our story straight, alright? If anyone asks, and no one's going to ask, don't worry, but if anyone asks, tell them as far as you know, the last time you checked, everyone looked pretty much alive, alright? Not dead.
You know, Wheatley, I feel like I'm gonna be dead if you keep continuing to control the room like the way you are.
We eventually find ourselves back in the room from the first Portal game as it has us solve a few puzzles leading us to grab the portal gun, and Wheatley has the brilliant idea of almost committing suicide, but we end up catching him and entering a room where we get to meet a familiar face.
Start writing these down.
Power up, complete.
Okay, listen. Alright, new plan. Act natural. You've done nothing. Hello!
Oh, it's you.
You know her?
It's been a long time. How have you been? I've been really busy being dead. You know, after you murdered me.
You did what? Oh no! No! Oh no! Ah!
Okay, look, we both said a lot of things that you're going to regret. But I think we can put our differences behind us. For science, you monster. I will say, though, that since you went to all the trouble of waking me up, you must really, really love to test. I love it too. There's just one small thing we need to take care of first.
For the record, GLaDOS, I did not kill you. I just shut you off. That's it. So stop acting like I murdered you because you aren't a real person. You're just lucky to have the ability to still turn on.
Anyway, GLaDOS drops Shell. Oh, did I forget to mention our protagonist is May Shell once again into a room where she picks up the portal gun back up, and for the next while just has us solve some test chambers just like the last game, as GLaDOS basically insults us the entire time until Wheatley has the idea to try to make us escape, but that doesn't end well as GLaDOS traps us in a glass box and tries to have us killed with neurotoxin, but Wheatley is able to disconnect GLaDOS from her body and take control of it for himself.
Yes, Wheatley, I know you're a big boy now, but please don't get corrupted like GLaDOS did and try to kill me. Please, that's all I'm asking.
See that? That is a potato battery. It's a toy for children. And now she lives in it. Sorry, what?
The engineers tried everything to make me behave.
me. It clung to my brain like a tumor, generating an endless stream of terrible ideas.
No, not listening, not listening.
It was your voice.
No, you're lying, you're lying.
You're the tumor. You're not just a regular moron. You were designed to be a moron.
I am not a moron!
Yes, you are. You're the moron they built to make me an idiot.
Well, how about now? Now who's a moron? Could a moron punch you into this pit? Huh? Could a moron do that? Uh-oh.
Well, just as I suspected, and now GLaDOS has been partially turned into a potato, and now Shell is falling to the abyss. We're doing great. Just great.
Shell eventually makes her way down the hole and lands in an abandoned part of the Aperture Science facilities where we hear the voice of a man named Cave Johnson and his assistant Caroline. Cave Johnson was the original owner of the Aperture Science facilities, and he is also voiced by J.K. Simmons, you know, the guy who played Triple J in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Then for most of the game, it has us solve various kinds of puzzles while Cave Johnson talks to Shell every once in a while, but Shell eventually finds GLaDOS and puts her on the portal gun. GLaDOS and Shell are able to make their way back to the more modern part of the Aperture Science laboratories, and Wheatley has more control than last time we ran into him and starts creating all brand new test chambers with parts of the old and new facility and makes us solve another 19 test chambers before GLaDOS finds a way and eventually has us escape, eventually leading us to Wheatley himself, where we have to put on more cores on his body just like what we had to do to fight GLaDOS at the end of the first game, and all of these guys have really funny dialogue as well.
Space! Let go! We're in space! Let go! Let go! I'm still connected! I can pull myself in! I can still fix this!
I already fixed it, and you are not coming back.
Oh no! Change your plans! Hold on to me! Tighter! Grab me! Grab me! Grab me! Grab me!
Well, I'm pretty sure that's the end of Wheatley. To be completely honest, he kinda deserved to end up in space, but maybe that's just me.
GLaDOS then talks to us one last time and basically apologizes for everything that she has done and sends us up to the actual surface where we pop out of a shed and see a nice bright yellow field and a companion cube from Portal 1 pops up, and then the game ends.
Okay, so that's the main story of Portal 2. Even though there wasn't really much of a story, the dialogue was still funny and enjoyable, but Portal 2 is mostly known for its co-op campaign, where you either play as one of two robots, either Atlas or Peabody, but unfortunately I cannot show that because it requires human players, and since most of my friends don't even own the consoles that we originally played this game on, I can't really talk about that. But I can talk about the gameplay changes and differences between all the versions.
So Portal 2 plays very similar to Portal 1, with the same blue and orange portals, the ability to place cubes and our objects, but Portal 2 introduces these new blue and orange gels. The blue gel can make any surface bouncy, while the orange gel can make any surface have speed. There is also the white gel that allows Shell to place a portal anywhere, because just like in Portal 1, portals can only be placed on pure white surfaces. Portal 2 also introduces these new gravity portal things. I don't know what the actual name of them are, but they are essentially allowing objects to get pulled in either left or right, or up and down, which creates for some really fascinating level design. But how does Portal 2 look? Well, it definitely looks better than Portal 1 with more dynamic shadows, greater environment detail, and better texture work, and it overall gives a nice image and still looks good to this day. The Xbox 360 and PS3 versions of Portal 2 look identical to my eyes, and I think the 360 has slightly better performance, while the PS3 version has support for Steam achievements if you link your Steam account. But since it's 2025, I wouldn't recommend doing that, but it still does kind of work. The PS3 version also has has support for the PlayStation Move if you have one of those, but I unfortunately don't have one at the moment. And in terms of resolution, they both look 720p-ish to me and target 30 FPS. The PSC version looks really nice and runs great on my RTX 4080, which it should since it's the game from 2011 after all, but it does have support for mods as well since it's a PC game. And finally, the Nintendo Switch version. This is currently the best console version of the game since it can run at 1080p 60fps while docked mode and 720p 60fps while in handheld mode, and that's where most of my footage is from. It also has all the DLC and just feels great to play even in handheld mode.
Well, that is Portal 2, one of my favorite games from my childhood and certainly one of my favorite games from 2011, even though it took me an embarrassingly long 11 years to finally beat it. But hey, better late than never, I suppose. But overall, Portal 2 is still worth playing today because of its great co-op, and the puzzles are also still very creative even to this day. Now, I know everyone would love to see a Half-Life 3, but I would personally love to see a Portal 3. But knowing Valve, that may never actually happen.